So we're going to talk about our pension. We're going to talk about the drop. We're going to talk about the 457. We're going to talk a little bit about the Health and Wellness Trust, which we've just created, because it's taken over some of the things that we used to have, which is the retiree health insurance and the Medicare supplements. We're going to talk about the post-employment health plan, health savings accounts, the HELPS Act, Social Security, and Medicare. These are things that all these things together are things that we've either created or that are in state or federal law that all work together to create that retirement security that we're all looking for when we are no longer on the job. First thing and the most important thing to most of us is our pension. We are in the 1977 Police Officers and Firefighters Pension and Disability Fund. Simple as that. That's something that's managed at the state level. It's in the state code. The 77 fund, as we call it. A lot of people call it PERF. Technically, it's the 77 fund. To be a member of the 77 fund, and everybody on our job right now is a full-time, fully paid firefighter hired after April 30th, 1977. Pretty simple. The 77 fund was established to pay pension, disability, and survivor benefits to eligible public safety officers and their dependents. It's not just a retirement plan, but it's also a disability plan and a survivor's benefit plan. The fund consists of member and employer's contribution, and it's based on a percentage of the base salary or the pension base. Those two things are used interchangeably. They mean the same thing. The pension base and the base salary are the same thing. And these amounts are used to make benefit payments to fund members and their survivors as specified by the Indiana law. So as a 77 fund member, you're eligible for full retirement benefits if you have at least 20 years of credible service in the fund, you're at least 52 years of age, and you're retired. Pretty simple. The way your pension is calculated is it's for 20 years of service, you receive a monthly benefit of 52% of the base salary for the year you're retired. And that's why I put those pension sheets on the back there. You can look and see where you're at, what the pension base is for that sheet goes from 24 through 28. You can look at it and see, okay, in 28 I'll have 20 years of service. What would my pension be? And the chart's pretty self-explanatory. I think you've all seen those before. So for everything over 20 years, every 6 months you receive an additional 1% in your benefit, up to 32 years where you max out at 76%. 76% of that base salary or the pension base. So 32, anything over 32 years of service, you just get that 76%. You max out your percentage of the base based after 32 years. Your survivors and beneficiaries of the fund, they have a benefit too. So as a member, you can designate one or more of your beneficiaries. I just got a thing in the mail about a month ago from PERF that has the form in there to designate your beneficiaries, and it's important that you do designate your beneficiaries. They'll go by law, but you can also designate anybody you want as your beneficiary. So they receive a lump sum of your contributions plus interest if you die with no dependents. So again, if what you've paid into that fund, you get the statement every year from PERF, and it says you've got $106,000 in your account or whatever. That money is your contributions and your interest. When you die, or if you don't have your 20 years of service on, or if you die and you have a balance in that account, they will pay it out to your beneficiary. It's not necessarily your spouse or your dependent. If you don't have those things, you can set up any beneficiary. You can make me your beneficiary if you feel like doing that, and I will get that lump sum of your pay. Your heirs in the state are also entitled to a one-time lump sum death benefit of $12,000. It's essentially funeral money. I mean, that's kind of what it is. It's a whole life policy, so to speak. And then your surviving spouse is entitled to a monthly benefit equal to 70% of your benefit. Not 70% of the pension base, but 70% of your benefit. So when you find your number on that chart and it says, hey, I'm going to make $67,000 a year when I retire, if you were to pass away, your spouse would get 70% of that $60,000. So that's 70% of your benefit, not 70% of the base. Payable for the spouse's lifetime. If you are active and your benefits are calculated as if you were receiving that 52 years, at age 52 with 20 years of service. And if you have more than 20, so if you were to die, if you were to pass away with 18 years of service, your spouse still gets a benefit based on a 20-year pension. So does your dependent. If you have more than, if I have 28 years on the job right now and I were to pass away, my spouse would get 70% of a 28-year pension. Even though I'm not retired yet, It's where you get it. They get at least 20% or at least a 20-year pension benefit and up to whatever you've actually earned. And your spouse may remarry without the risk of losing the benefit. And your survivors, your dependents, your children, each surviving child is entitled to a monthly benefit of 20% of your benefit. So if you have a wife and 5 kids, they're going to make 170% of your benefit because they each get 20%. Your spouse gets 70%. So they're going to get that. Each of them gets that 20% of your benefit. Generally, your child ages out between 18 and 23 if they're still. It's 18 unless they're enrolled in a qualified education program, a regular attending secondary school as a full-time student. And again, they get that same benefit. If you don't have your 20 on yet, they get it based on a 20-year pension. And if you have more than 20 when you pass away, they get it based on whatever your benefit would have been that day. There is a cost of living adjustment in the pension, and this is a big deal. I think we're one of only 2 pensions in the state that actually have a cost of living, us and the judges, and so it's a big deal. So every year after you retire, you have an annual pension increase that has nothing to do with the contract anymore. Once you retire, that's your pension for your life. That's what it's based on going forward. But each year, the PERF board determines that if there's been a change in the consumer price index, inflation essentially, and they decide what that number is, and then on July 1st of each year, they increase it by that cost of inflation up to 3%. It's capped at 3% right now by law. So again, inflation might be 8%. You say, well, 3% doesn't keep up. Well, a lot of other pensions stay at 0. So 3% keeps up a whole lot better than 0%. And it's a big deal. Over time, you talk to some of these retirees that haven't been retired very long, they're making more on their pension right now than they were making when they were working because that escalator keeps hitting, that cost of living keeps hitting every year to them. And again, that happens on July 1st every year. So the pension has a lot of pros, but there's a few things to think about here. So first of all, it's income for life. It lives as long as you live. It has a disability benefit. It's not just for regular retirement. So if you've got 3 years on the job, or 5 years on the job, and something happens to you that you can't continue to work, you can't work to that 20 or 30 years, you're still going to get a pension for the rest of your life. It's going to be it is not just a retirement plan. It also has a spousal and adult dependent care, adult dependent child benefit for life. So like I said, when I said earlier, your children normally age out between 18 and 23. If you have an adult, like an adult dependent child, they're going to get that benefit for the rest of their life. I have a sister that she's a year younger than I am, and she's still getting a pension from my dad's benefit. So so that's a tremendous benefit. If you have a child that you know that you're going to have to take care of for the rest of your life, it's a great comfort to know that they're going to have a stream of income to take care of them. Annual cost of living, like I said, that's a big deal. This is a fantastic foundation for a dignified retirement that we all hope to work. And it's actually funded and it's managed. So it's not just like, hey, I hope the money's there when I get there. They manage it, they monitor it, they make sure it's going to be there for us for when we go. Some of the things to think about, some of the shortcomings, if you will, is your benefit is only 52 to 75% or 76% of the pension base. So can I live on that? Is that enough? Well, hopefully it is, but if it's not, where am I going to make up that difference? Where do I go from being a 30-year, 35-year captain to 76%? How do I make up that difference? That's something you need to think about. Spouse benefit it's a great value, but it is only 70%. So where do we make up that difference when I'm gone? Is that 70% going to be enough? So something to think about. Generally, your children age out. And then when you die, if you have no spouse or eligible dependents, the benefit's not transferable or inheritable. Once you're dead and they're gone, it's gone. So those are things to think about. The historical COLAs that we talked about, like I said, it's capped at 3%. You see a lot of years it's 3%. Some years it was 0%. It's whatever the CPI is for that year. And this is it. So if you add those up, it's about 2.4 or something like that over the back since like 81. It's just a reference. They'll determine, I think, in April what it's going to be for this year for 2025. But we don't control that. But just know that it's there. So how's your pension calculated? Your pension benefit, not your pension base, but how is your pension calculated? So the fund is calculated, the base salary of the pension base is first class firefighter with up to 25 years longevity. So the employer contributes 20.3% of that amount, and we contribute 6% of that amount. Those funds are what's put together, managed by the state, and that's how they pay out those benefits. And currently, right now, 2025, first class firefighter is $87,931. 25 years longevity is worth $10,648. So the pension base for 2025 is $98,579. So you'll get a percentage of that $98,579 for the rest of your life. So that's the pension. Anybody have any questions?